Hello and welcome. Friday, 12:30. Welcome to another Lunchtime Live. For anyone that might be joining me, thank you for joining me. If you're new here to watching my Lunchtime Lives, this is a weekly show that I do of a Friday, 12:30 Melbourne time. Sitting here, we are live across LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you for joining me. What I normally like to do is just have a bit of a ramble about my week and some things that I'm observing and things that are going on in my life, as well as talk about a bit of a topic. This is a weekly show that I do of a Friday. Computer, as I was just checking that it's coming through. Looks like it's coming through live on LinkedIn. I haven't checked the other platforms, but if you are there, hello, thank you for joining me. Anyone that's out there, drop us a like, drop us a comment, let me know you are watching. I'm just about to post, as I did last week, I've just posted on LinkedIn. So if you're not on any one of those, if you're not on the other platforms, maybe have a look on LinkedIn. I've just shared the StreamYard link. You are welcome to join me and pop in and say hi. And if you've got a question or anything, by all means do so. So let me know you're there. Looks like there's a few people starting to join. So as I said, we're live across LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. When I get my act together, I'll put this out on a podcast as well. I haven't put any podcasts out for a little while. Let me know you're there, where you're at, what's for lunch on your end. So as you're starting to join me, might be a bit of a recap reflection on my week. As I shared in the live from last week, I am only working 4 days a week at the moment with the stage 4 lockdowns that are going on, the homeschooling requirements and all the rest of it. I've taken Tuesdays off to look after my 2 boys, help Thomas with his schoolwork that he needs to do. That's going well, but working is I guess is a challenge. It's okay to take a day off here and there, but taking a regular day off each week, I've got a full-time job, a 5-day-a-week job, that I'm actually trying to cram into 4 days a week. So that's a bit of a challenge on my end. So it does mean that the other 4 days of the week are pretty busy with seeing existing clients, new clients, working with them, trying to do the admin and paperwork and all the rest of it that goes with it. Sure, I've got a team of people that support me, but there is a fair bit that's on my shoulders to do first off before I can pass it to anyone else in my team, Rebecca in particular, to do that. So the weeks are challenging, but getting through it. I've resorted to, as I suspect a lot of you may have if you're outside of Victoria, doing a bit of work of a night time when the kids are in bed. So that's what's going on my end. So no, it doesn't look like there's any questions or anything there. I will kick on with the topic that I wanted to talk about today, and it's something that came up for me earlier in the week. I had a client reach out to me. One of their children had just been invited into an employee share scheme. So I wanted to just share a little bit about that. Vern, I can see you there. Thank you for watching. Good to have you watching. Anyone else, if you're game enough to let us know where you're watching from, just drop a comment and I'll share and say hello. So Vern, thank you for joining me. So I was getting to employee share schemes. So I might just a bit of an intro into employee share schemes, what they are, how they work. Now there's various versions of these. What I'm about to go through is a pretty plain vanilla version of an employee share scheme that's typical for a listed organisation. So maybe they're listed here in Australia, maybe they're listed overseas. Often employee share schemes are used for trying to retain people long term in these businesses. They excuse me. So the employer, you'll be familiar with it. You earn a wage, you earn a bonus. And then part of what's called long-term incentive scheme is employee share schemes. So the employee is awarded some shares, and there's a period of time before they actually what's called vest, and I'll get into vesting in a minute. But they're awarded a lump sum of shares. It's often maybe a dollar bonus is converted to shares that conversion happens at an average trading price. So there's normally a window leading into when these shares are issued. There'll be some type of average trading price leading into that window, and a price is struck, and you're issued a number of shares. They'll sit there as unvested, often for a couple of years is what is normally the case. But I'm aware of at least one ASX listed business, and I suspect they're probably not alone, that have actually gone down the route of employee share schemes right now because of everything that's going on. I suspect it might be cash flow related. So rather than paying cash bonuses to some of their staff, they're actually entering into an employee share scheme where shares will be actually paid to them, but they'll vest after a 6-month period. Normally that vesting period is much longer. Graham, thank you for tuning in and watching. Zach from Sydney, Mark from Blackburn, thank you for watching also, if you're all still there. So as I said, this employee share scheme, if I keep looking down, I've got some notes here to just make sure I hit on the few points that I wanted to talk about. With this vesting period, if you are awarded shares and they haven't yet vested to you, and you leave that employer, you leave that business, you often forego those shares. So, for some people in some businesses, this could be hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of shares that someone might be foregoing, particularly if you're in the technology space. You may be familiar with what's happened with some of the share prices of some of the technology businesses in America, for example. The Facebooks and Google and Apple and all of these kind of things. Their prices have gone through the roof. So there are a number of their employees that may not be right at the tippy top of the business, but quite good employees nonetheless, that are actually sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of unvested shares. So in that technology space, and I'm familiar that it happens in there, I imagine it probably happens with other businesses too. If you're sitting there with unvested shares, a lot of these organizations will actually do a matching program. So if you were to leave company A and go to company B, but you've got $500,000 worth of unvested shares, ordinarily someone wouldn't be willing to leave. I wouldn't leave my job if I had $500,000 worth of unvested shares. So the company that you're going to, company B, will often have a matching system there. So you give up the shares for the company that you're leaving, but you're awarded some unvested shares in the new company that you're joining. This idea of vesting, so you're awarded these shares. You hold them for a period of time where you don't really own them, you can't sell them, you can't benefit from them. It's not until this vesting date. Now, the plain vanilla version of this is on the vesting date, when those shares are issued to you and they become yours. That's when they become taxable. And so this is something that you need to be aware of if you're unfamiliar or haven't experienced employee share schemes before. Those shares become yours on a particular day, and they're worth a particular price at that time. And all of that will count as income, ordinary income for you on that day. So if you've got a $20,000, for example, if you've got a $20,000 parcel of shares that vest to you on a particular day, that you're taxable for $20,000 worth of income in that year's tax return. Different to a cash bonus of $20,000 being paid, your employer will have deducted tax. Maybe they deduct superannuation from it as well and pay you what's left over. Whereas under an employee share scheme, the $20,000 worth of shares vest to you, and you're liable for actually paying the tax bill. That can catch some people out that are unfamiliar with this, or they're actually just getting their first round of shares vested to them and they haven't had them for a while, haven't had them before, because they have to then cough up the tax when they lodge their tax return. They have to cough up the tax to make up the difference. What we actually see in practice is that a number of people end up actually selling a parcel of their shares. So scratching out some rough idea about how much tax they might have to pay on this parcel of shares as it vests to them. And then they sell an equivalent number of shares or equivalent dollar value of shares to cover the tax bill. Often these schemes have a window. There's a window between you can have these shares vest to you, you can sell them, and all you're up for is ordinary income tax on the amount of money or the value of these shares. once they go past their period, it might be 30 days. Once they go past the 30-day period, and if you subsequently sold them thereafter, you're also up for capital gains tax on top of the income tax. So if you look at some of the shares on the stock exchange at the moment, some of those that are in Australia, those technology related businesses, some of the retailers, some of the more prevalent online retailers, Kogan, JB Hi-Fi, Afterpay, all of these types of businesses, they will have employees that are subject to these employee share schemes. These share prices have gone through the roof. So as shares are vesting at the moment, they're actually worth significantly more than what they actually thought they were going to be when they were first awarded the shares a few years back. So that creates, now that's a positive. It's a whole lot more money than what these people thought they were going to have in the first place. But the negative is that there's some tax benefits, also some tax that they're going to have to deal with. So as I said, often people sell a portion of their shares soon after they vest to cover the cost there. Some of the positives around employee share schemes, I guess, from an employer's point of view, it often keeps some of the key staff around for longer because they're incentivized to stay for longer and be awarded via these share schemes. For the individual, it can be a way of very quickly increasing your wealth or your asset position. So I spoke of the likes of JB Hi-Fi and Kogan, Afterpay, some of these businesses where their share prices have really rocketed forwards in the last 6 months. There will be employees in each of those businesses that, at least on paper anyway, have become very, very wealthy because of these employee share schemes. So it's a good way of these businesses retaining their staff, but also the employees benefiting very handsomely from that. Some of the negatives to just be mindful of as an individual, if you're participating in these employee share schemes, is this idea of having all of your eggs in one basket, and it's actually twofold. You can maybe put square that all of your eggs in one basket. So you've got a large chunk of your wealth tied up in the ongoing prospects of this business and the viability of this business, and hopes on the share price continuing to move forward when you're awarded all of these shares. But you also need to remember, so is your salary. So your income and your wealth, your regular income and your wealth, are all tied to the one business. Now, if it's something that's going forward and continues to go forward, it's a lot of risk that you're taking on, and you'll probably be rewarded very handsomely for that. But things can go wrong, and the business could go south. Those shares that that vested to you can become worth less than what you actually paid for it. I have clients that have gone through exercises where they've had shares vest, something's gone on with the business thereafter, and the tax bills that they're actually left with on the vesting of those shares is more than what the shares are actually worth a little while afterwards. So it's not always rosy. It doesn't always go ahead as you thought it would. So something to be mindful of, and something that I encourage my clients to think of, is that you've got a large portion of your wealth plus your ongoing income tied to the one business. That can be a bit of a risky strategy. So what are the options? What can you do? How can you try and minimize the impact of this going forward? Now, so often people see this wealth accumulating on one side through all of these shares that they're earning through the business, the employee share schemes, and see them and want to do other things. And so people might use them as a payment towards buying a house or upgrading a house, buying an investment property, something like that. Often people will transfer the ownership of those shares to a trust not long after they vest. So I spoke a little bit ago about, you have this vesting date where you're subject to income tax. There's a window where you can move it thereafter, where there's unlikely to be a big capital gain, and you could move those shares to a trust. So then any future gains, any future income, any future dividends derived from those shares are captured within the trust, and then you can split that amongst your family members, spouse, children, parents, whatever it might be. You can split that amongst the family to lessen the tax burden. Some of them So the other option there for some of my older clients, and I've got a lot of they're now retired, but ex-banking executives that have been subject to these employee share schemes for many years. Often they retire with just as much money in their super funds as they do in the bank shares, side by side. And so we go through an exercise with them of trying to move some of those shares into superannuation because they're a little bit older. We go through an exercise of moving some of those shares into superannuation, and I'm actually doing that now for one of my existing clients who've got some advice underway. We'll move some shares into a self-managed super fund for him, and then that will then mean that any upside in the share price from here, any dividends earned on those shares from here, and any potential future sales at a gain from here will all be captured within the super fund in the low tax environment. So I guess the idea here is that for most people this is an amazing opportunity, particularly if the business is running along really well and it's the likes of Apple and it's doubled in price in the last couple of years. A lot of people will make a significant amount of money, and probably significantly more than what they would earning their wage as an employee than they do from these employee share schemes. They earn much more. The important point is to capitalize on that and use them for bettering you and what you're trying to achieve. Try not to be tied too much into owning all of your shares and your wage in the same business. As I said, it's a bit of a risky strategy, but I guess everyone's unique, and it's a decision for them to make. So that brings me to the end of the employee share schemes. There are various different variations on that. The bank that I was talking about before, they've had various iterations of their employee share scheme over the years, but by and large it works like that. That's the simpler version. If you've got any questions, if you're subject to any of these employee share schemes, or if you're wondering what to do with your employee shares, I'm more than happy to have a chat with you. Reach out. You can find me here on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever you might be watching this right now. If you are watching this anywhere other than on Facebook, other than on LinkedIn, can you maybe follow me on one of the other platforms? It is on Facebook, it is on YouTube, and as I said, it will be on the podcast. The link's there to join the conversation. Doesn't look like anyone's joined today. That's all good. No one popping up here. So thank you for the few of you that I can see are still watching. Appreciate you sticking with me for the 15, 20 minutes or so. That's it for the Friday. I hope everything is well in your world. Things are looking okay in my world, and I've just realized I think I have the same shirt on as I do in this little graphic that I've got down the bottom here today. As I said, hope everything's well in your world. Join me next Friday, 12:30 for another Lunchtime Live. If you've got an idea for a topic you'd like me to explore, shoot me a message, and I'll be more than happy to do that. Or otherwise, I'll pick up something that's come up in my working week and talk about that. So enjoy your day. See you shortly. Bye.